Hey everybody, it's Angelo from Angelo's Workbench with a little bonus video content for you. I'm going to show you how to clean an airbrush. And I don't mean, after you're done spraying, you put some thinner in. I mean disassembly to clean it, because periodically you're going to need to, no matter what. And if you take care of your airbrush will take care of you. I have had this airbrush for about 12 years, 15 years maybe. And I've been using it nonstop. It is an Iwata Eclipse HPCS. It is my primary airbrush. I use this for everything. I like gravity feed, and I really like the HPCS. And this is not a paid advertisement for Iwata. They did not give me this airbrush. They did not give me anything. They probably don't even know that I'm doing this or that I even exist. So here's the Iwata HPCS Eclipse. Every airbrush is a little bit different, but primarily it's the same thing. So there's going to be a needle, there's going to be a nozzle, and there's going to be other parts, which I am probably not going to say the names correctly, but here you can see it here on my table here. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to take the nozzles off, and you're going to want to have some tools handy just in case. Most airbrushes come with a tool, and Iwata was no exception. It came with this nice little wrench that says Iwata on it, and what that does is it gets this off. This has to be nice and tight, otherwise you'll get air bubbles in your cup. And then there is this piece right here, which never likes to come off. I probably wouldn't have to normally separate those two, but I believe in being thorough. And then that wrench loosens this part. And all of this is going to have a nice bath in lacquer thinner, which I have right here. I have a little glass jar that I use specifically for this. I use new thinner every time. And then I can just put the lid on, shake them all around. And then we need the valve, or the nozzle, I mean. And then you can see this is why. Now, this airbrush has been cleaned, and I have been spraying with this. And you'll see that there is a bunch of stuff on that needle that has built up over time. Look at how it's coming off with the lacquer thinner. Look at the stuff on the Q-tip. Now, you want to be very careful of that tip. Don't do any damage to that tip. So now I'm going to loosen this and push this through. And the whole needle will come out, and there is the needle. And you can see there was all kinds of stuff on there. And this, like I said, is a clean airbrush. I've been using it. I've been spraying with it. I'm about to shoot clear coat on a car right now. And before I shoot the clear, I wanted to clean the airbrush, because what ends up happening is you end up building up paint on the inside of that nozzle that the needle goes in. And what that does is it affects how much paint will come out of your airbrush. And you can see it. Look at all the stuff on there. Watch this. There's all kinds of stuff going to come out of here. So when you're trying to spray clear coat especially, and you want to look at all the gunk. Look at on my finger. All kinds of stuff in there. And it just builds up over time. You use different types of paints, lacquers, water-based, acrylics, polyurethane. I use them all. And, the thinners are good, but the thinners don't get everything out. Same thing with the airbrush cleaner. Sometimes you need a what they would call a mechanical cleaning rather than a chemical cleaning. Mechanical is you're actually touching it, you're working with it, manipulating it. Look at all the junk coming out of there. So I'm going to put that back in the thinner and let that sit there. So what that does is it builds up on the inside, and now you've got less paint volume going out. So now when you're shooting your clear coat and you're trying to get your clear to wet out so that you can get a good shine, right? Oh, I knew that was going to happen. Only when I'm recording do I spill things on my workbench. Actually, I wish that were true. That is not the case. I spill things all the time. But, hey, no big deal. We're going to clean it up. It's lacquer thinner. It will evaporate very quickly. And we're back to work. So, now I'm going to get some more lacquer thinner. And so when you're trying to wet out your coats and your airbrush is dirty, you have a hard time. So with a nice clean airbrush, you can have the adequate paint flow. I mean, you're already shooting with a smaller needle, 0.3, or in this case, this one has a 0.5. 0.5 millimeter is not very big at all. And if you've got that 0.5 cut down to a 0.3 or a 0.2 or even smaller because there is paint buildup inside the nozzle, then you're doing yourself a disservice on your paint jobs. So a clean airbrush is super important. So now that I've got the needle out, this can come out. And then most airbrushes, there's always a spring mechanism because that's what returns it back to position when you let go of the trigger and closes the needle in. And you'll see here on the Iwata HPCS, this is the spring mechanism. Boing, 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 boing. So we unscrew this, and then this comes apart. And I like to clean all of this and oil all of this because this is metal on metal, and over time, you know, it can wear out. And that's why my airbrush is 12 years old and works like new. And I also take off the quick release nozzle. And then in here, this comes out as well, and you can clean that. However, I don't do that every time, and I just did it last time. That's just air that goes through there. But and you can see it comes out through there. There is one additional tool that I purchased, and that is this right here. This is a needle removal tool, or a bushing removal tool, whatever they call it. A needle bushing, I believe they call it, for Iwata. And so what you do is you just put this in here. Do I have the wrong one? I have the wrong one. This is the tool. And we just put this in here, and now I unscrew it. And it's a special screwdriver. I'll show you. Now this is Iwata only. I don't know if other airbrushes have a similar thing. So this is the bushing that the needle rides in, and I like to clean this, which is why I take it out. And this is what the tool looks like. It's a like a little rod with a little flathead screwdriver built in, and you can see there's a notch there that it goes in, and then that's how you install it. This enables you to, you're supposed to adjust this. This needle collapses when you tighten this, and it's supposed to grip the needle firmly, but not too firmly. You're supposed to be able to slide the needle through, but there's supposed to be able to be some friction that you can feel. So now that I have that out, the inside of this airbrush, I can pass things right through. So I have a little brush that I can take, and I can start cleaning out. In fact, I might go down a size. Let's go down a size. There we go. Go right through. Blow it out. And if you plug this, and blow on the end, you can tell that there's obstructions, and there is. I can see them. So I'm going to take that brush. I'm going to dip it in the thinner, and we're going to go through one more time. There we go. Clean it out. And you can look through. I'm looking through, and I'm looking at the hole that goes through it. And oh, that's much better. Yes, whatever the obstruction was is now gone. So I'm just going to go back through this side. Maybe. There we go. And I don't see anything in there now. The hole is clear. And I can blow right through it like nothing. So now this has been cleaned. So then what I like to do is I like to give the cup a good clean, because you get a lot of, over time, you get paint material like stuck down in the bottom crevice of the paint cup. See, like that. Plus some of that is from me passing the brush through. That looks good. And takes care of that. The inside of that is nice and clean. So this particular part is pretty well done. So I will take this, and I will put this back in, and then I will test it and see how it feels to determine whether or not it needs any lubrication. As I said, I've recently cleaned that. Oh, and that feels good. It goes down, comes back, down, back. Good. That's lubricated very well. So now we're going to clean the needle. There we go. That looks very good. And I'm going to keep the needle handy because the needle sometimes helps me to clean this nozzle. Let's see what we've got here. I think I got most of the stuff out already with this. I'm giving it a little cleaning. Oh, and you can see the brush pushed some of the stuff out the end. That is stuff that is clogging up your airbrush right there. And that is why we do this. And then I'll take the needle and I'll put it in the nozzle. See if it'll go through the end. And it won't. It's having a hard time, which means there's still stuff in there. So we're going to do a little bit more of this. Get a lot of thinner in there. And I can't see through. So there is definitely a plug. So I'm going to use the needle to push whatever it is out. Now some people would tell you not to do that, and you do have to do it very gently, because if you bend this tip, you're replacing it. And that in 15 or 12 years of having this airbrush, I've probably changed this nozzle and this needle maybe 3 or 4 times. They do wear out. But I've always had good success cleaning my airbrush in this fashion. And it works for me. You know, I make no disclaimers that this will work for you. Give it a try. You have to be very careful. This is almost like building a model. You have to be very careful in what you do with these parts. And if you come across any kind of interference or something won't go, you can't just force it, because these things break, they bend, and then they're no good. And you're buying a new airbrush or new parts, replacement parts. You can replace just about every part in this airbrush. I've replaced that needle valve. That wore out on me once. What was happening was paint was going into the airbrush, and that was when I bought the tool and made sure it was adjusted correctly, and it was. But and I'm checking, there are 3 holes in this nozzle. I'm checking to make sure that they are clear, and they are clear. Once these guys are in the thinner, you know, they clean up pretty easily. There's not a lot of nooks and crannies and crevices and things for anything to hide. So these parts are all ready for reassembly. The hardest part is this part right here. And also the most crucial, that part right there. That's the hardest part to clean. Okay, so here we go. We are ready for reassembly. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my needle bushing. I'm going to clean that up a little bit. And now that it's clean, I'm going to reinstall it back in the airbrush. Let's go ahead and put this in. And I'm screwing it in until it gets snug, and then I'm stopping. And now I want to see how hard it is to pull this in and out. It needs to be loosened a little bit. Right there, perfect. And now let's see what happens when we pass the needle through, what it feels like. There's a little bit of resistance, but not enough. So we need to tighten it up a little bit. All right, let's see how we did. Oh, perfect. That's exactly what we're looking for right there. Marvelous. Okay, so now it's time to oil things. I use a little bit of what used to be RC car oil for engine oil. I use a little bit of this, and I drop a drop down in there. And then I put a drop on here because there's a pivot. Anywhere where there's a hinge or a pivot gets a little bit of oil. And they do make super lube, a wad of super lube, and I do have some of that, and I use it from time to time, but for right now, I'm using this. Okay, so now that is ready to go. This, I want to put a little bit of oil on. Oil everything that moves. Okay. Here we go. We'll thread this on. And now this has to go in like so. And every airbrush is slightly different. But if you've got an Iwata HPCS, you can follow this procedure exactly. Okay. That's looking good. Now I install these first. Some guys like to put the needle in first. I like to put this in first. There we go. And the Iwata goes on here. Tighten that up good so we don't get any air bubbles. And now we can finish installing the rest of the tips. And now we are ready for our needle. I want it to go in all the way and seat, and then I like to back it out just a smidge and then tighten it up, because it has a tendency to move forward a little when you tighten it, at least for me. And now you have a clean airbrush ready to go. And you'll notice after you do this that it'll even sound a little different. Like you'll hear more air rushing because you've got that increased flow. And so now this connects to my hose. Oh wait, I forgot the one part. There we go. Can't hook up to the hose without that guy. I like the quick release because I can turn the air off and then change airbrushes if I'm using another airbrush, because there are other airbrushes I use. Sometimes I have this trigger one that I use that's for clear coat occasionally. I'll use that one if I'm doing something big like a 16th scale or a 12 scale or a bike, to me a motorcycle or something with bigger parts. But this is my go-to for most of the time. So now what I will do is I will throw this thinner away because that is no good anymore, and I will put fresh thinner in this and I will spray it out off camera, and that's it. How to clean your airbrush. Thanks for watching. Hey everybody, thanks for watching the how to thoroughly clean an airbrush. I hope you got something out of it. I certainly enjoyed making it. Go ahead and click that like and subscribe button if you're not already a subscriber, and don't forget to hit that bell so you get notified when I upload new content, which is at least once per week. There'll be more videos coming up very soon. Thank you for watching Angelo's Workbench.